Hey Pisces, it's been a minute, but we're here doing the dang thing. We are using the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and I want to apologize in advance if y'all see any little things kind of zooming around. Either it's dust, or worse, it's the little fungus gnats that are happy to call my houseplants home. I feel kind of bad killing them all, but we coexist to an extent. I'm curious to see what comes through for you, Pisces, because even just connecting with your energy is just a little weird. I feel like y'all aren't really showing up. Don't, let's be careful how we say that. Like, you're not really in the world right now. And I don't mean necessarily in an escapist way, but it sort of feels like you've retreated a little bit, or you're entering a time period where that seems more necessary for you to kind of recharge and reconnect with something, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's yourself, spirit, your ancestors, specific deity, deities, hobbies, specific books you're rereading. Like, there's just something about needing to kind of pull back and stop being involved in the activity of the outer world, because I think it's just been a little bit too much. I think part of that, I'm not going to say it. We'll see if it comes up later. I've already got a couple cards laid out. I haven't flipped them over, so I have no idea what's going to be coming through. See, I knew it. Okay, so the World card. This to me is Saturn. And I was actually thinking about Saturn when I was like, I'm not going to say it, but I guess I have to say it. I feel like there's an affinity with the sign of Pisces and with the planet Saturn. And I know it's not a traditional ruler of Pisces, you know, usually that's Jupiter, or in modern astrology, they like to ascribe it to Neptune, but I think there is a resonance with Pisces that is overlooked whenever there's a discussion about Saturn, because Pisces is the thing that is the thing. It brings the entire zodiac to a close. It's the ending. But when we talk about time, we have to acknowledge that there is no beginning and there is no end. It's just an infinite cycle, an infinite spiral. And I think whatever Saturn is doing very deeply impacts Pisces. And part of that is also to do with the very, old traditional associations of Saturn with the ocean. I think there's just a discussion there that needs to happen, I think. And I'm saying that as a person with Saturn in Pisces natally. Like, there's something there that hasn't been brought to the table, and I don't think I'm the person to do it. So, planting that seed, somebody do the digging. Saturn, very shortly, I don't have any dates. I know we're moving towards Saturn's next station fairly soon, in the next coming weeks or months. I don't know, it's in the air. It feels like an air of death, which is also another card that came out for you. And I don't think that this card is by any means a negative card. It can be, but in this particular instance, I think this combination of the Saturnian sort of completion, wholeness, rounding the world off, setting the boundaries, setting the limits, or even breaking past the boundaries, breaking past the limits, and sort of progressing into a new stage, which I think is kind of the threshold that's being communicated by this death card here. Up until this point, I'm hearing like a flurry of activity, like trying to stay busy, trying to create something, trying to progress in a particular direction, and it's like, you're hitting a curved wall, and you just keep going around in circles. And so I think this sense that I've been getting of you kind of like retreating from the outer world is a way for you to sort of reclaim your power and reattune yourself to the fact that the change isn't happening out there because it hasn't really happened on the inside yet. So we have the moon showing up with the high priestess here. You know, there's a process that needs to play out on the inside, a process of transformation, a process of change, a letting go of something, perhaps. I'm hearing also with this combination of the high priestess and the death card, I don't know how familiar those of y'all watching are with like ancestral veneration. Maybe something to look into. I think interfacing with the very real and very present spirits of the family members, both known and unknown, that came before you. There's just something there. Praying to them, offering them thanks and gratitude for being the conduits through which you came into this world. And also for being guides to you. Like, I feel like there's a message there, like something needs to be said. Maybe needs to be an acknowledgement of something that has already happened in the past, because we can also talk about that with the World card, with Saturn, his past experiences. Maybe acknowledging something that happened, and it's the only way that you can move forward is by, bringing this thing to light. I'm hearing this terrible shadow as I'm looking at the death card. Scorpio's card, and Scorpio likes to dredge things up from the depths, uncomfortable truths, and brings them into awareness, sometimes for nefarious purposes. But I think that the best expression of scorpionic energy is that process of shadow work, of going into these uncomfortable truths and actually doing something with them, acknowledging them, integrating them. Very, very heavy weight on the table with these major arcana cards that have come through for you. Okay, we have the Three of Swords. I almost said the Three of Hearts. The Three of Swords, which, obviously it's kind of a negative image, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything negative. But I'm going to proceed to give you a bunch of negative interpretations of this card, probably. I think it's interesting that there hasn't been a conversation about this situation that happened. Like something happened. Some sort of transgression took place. And it just feels like nobody has talked about it. Nobody has acknowledged that anything happened. We're all just kind of going on as if everything's the same and nothing's changed. And I think if we're following that thread, this card also sort of represents to me the imposition of limitation, of restriction, of holding on to something instead of allowing it to go out in the world. Ironically, I just feel like there was a boundary that was crossed, and it inflicted pain on somebody, and it was never acknowledged. There was no apology given. And I think part of you, I don't know where you fall in this situation, if you're the transgressor or the one who is transgressed, or merely just a bystander. I feel like the High Priestess here is kind of conveying this sense of, oh, I should be above this. Like, it's such a little thing. Like, I really shouldn't be upset, and really trying to diminish the impact of whatever happened to her detriment, whoever this high priestess is representing in that particular situation. Like, where is your integrity? Where is your dignity to just roll over and accept instead of acting as I'm like attacking these fungus gnats that are flying in my face? Like, do something about it. And I think that in having this conversation, in ripping the Band-Aid off, in I'm hearing subjugating the pretense. It's an interesting phrase. That's what allows you to move forward into this new era, this new chapter that you've felt like you haven't been able to break through to. Another way that I can see this sort of playing out, I'm hearing accepting mediocrity, like being complacent with the situation, which I think kind of goes back to what I was saying, where she's sort of diminishing the impact of the situation. She's, in the same way, maybe downplaying the dissatisfaction with the routine, with I'm hearing the location, which I guess could make sense, because if we're calling Saturn into the picture and we're calling the world into the picture, there is a very real, practical sense to the space that's around you, and paying attention to that and what sort of messages it might have, what sort of resonance it has with who you are as a person, and maybe the discord that you have with the environment that you're inhabiting. Like, taking those things into consideration. I am just so distracted with this thing. Very interesting. Another thing that just kind of came through looking at this card is breaking a lease. Like, I'm not happy here. I'm terminating this agreement and I'm moving on to greener pastures, maybe. Maybe not to greener pastures, maybe to the desert where there is no grass. But in either case, it's a change for the better, because whatever is being left behind, whatever is being crossed or sliced out, it's like there is a very real shedding that needs to take place that I think has been postponed for one reason or another, and I'm not here to tell you what those reasons are, but they didn't fall on the floor. Okay, the card is in here somewhere, I feel. Ace of Swords. These are the newly defined terms. This is the clarity that comes with knowing what it is you would rather be doing, what space it is that you would rather be inhabiting, and actually crystallizing the vision clear in your mind so that it exists as a goal that you can work towards. I'm getting this image in my head of like watching this sword sort of slicing through obstacles as it's going. It's like there's going to be a lot of resistance to this process. And if you hold on to that clarity, or even that single moment of clarity that you may have had that was fleeting and is suddenly gone as the moment passes, holding on to that is what's going to drive this process of transformation, this process of breaking through the barrier, that Saturn is kind of representing here. breaking through the reality that you've been inhabiting up until this point. You know, we kind of have these cards interacting in this way, where the sword is sort of poking up into this wreath encircling the figure in the middle, cutting through the boundaries, releasing the energy, releasing you even. And it's like it's moving you towards what you've already known this entire time and maybe have been putting off acknowledging or refusing to acknowledge. But it's like it's always been there. Like, this isn't a surprise to you. This isn't anything that you didn't already know. It's not like a flash of brilliant insight that just totally blows your mind open. Maybe it was. But it's like, I feel like the whispers were always there. If you're in a situation or in a place that isn't right for you, it's like you knew it immediately from the start, the very beginning of this process. If you look back, all the road signs were there. All the guidance was there. And if it wasn't like out there, it was in here. You could feel the guidance. You could feel the impact. And it's like, this is the moment where you're finally like, okay, so that gut feeling I had makes sense. Oh, so that thing that I was just kind of chalking up to my imagination makes perfect sense. Oh my God. Okay. So I don't think you guys have the context for this card, but I attempted a reading for you before this one, I believe, and happened to show the card at the base of the deck, and it was this card. And I was like, I'm going to bookmark that. I won't say anything about it. I'm just going to show it to you guys and then see if it's important later. But here he is again, showing up. And the arrangement is interesting. So he's showing up beneath the Death card. I'm trying to think of like how to word this, but I guess the first thing that's kind of coming to mind is like relinquishing the excess. The conversation these two cards are having is reminding me of what I said earlier about being complacent in a situation, maybe being very comfortable with how things are. You know, you've got your paintings in the right places, you've got your books arranged the nice way. I'm using like personal situations here just to kind of communicate this, but like everything is where it should be, and using that as like a justification for the inaction up to this point. Like, yeah, maybe I'm not happy here, but you know, everything is arranged nice, everything looks pretty, it's comfortable, it's cozy, it's me, it's safe. So, you know, maybe I should just be okay with that and not do anything about it. But I'm like watching the grapes withering as I'm staring at this card. It's like nothing the vine hasn't, there's been no fruit of the labor. You've been working the land and working hard to produce results and coming up with nothing, dust, emptiness. And I think that speaks for itself. You know, the question that comes to mind is like, what are the fruits of this process? Because you can be in a situation that looks any kind of way, but what it comes down to is what are the results of you engaging with this process? What are the results of you being in this relationship? What are the fruits of you being in this place? Do you have anything to show for it? Is there any real value or benefit that you've been afforded through it? Or has it just kind of been a way to pass the time? And just a distraction from the fact that you're not happy? And not to put this energy down of the King of Pentacles, like I think maybe there has been a benefit because it's brought you to an understanding of what your true value is and how you can best arrange your focus and your energy in such a way that you can actualize what it is that you actually want. I feel like the complacent situation has kind of allowed you to come to an understanding, a workable understanding of what that means. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm try to think of a different way to word it. I don't know. Maybe that. I hope it makes sense. It made sense in my head. Let's see. Okay, we have the Two of Coins, kind of jumping out. Oh, look at that crease. I felt compelled to put it in the center of the cards, and it's interesting because at this upper end is the World card. So I'm kind of associating this with the upper pentacle, and at the lower corner is the King of Pentacles down here. And it's sort of what I heard in my head as I saw the arrangement was, do I choose growth or do I choose comfort? Do I choose opportunity, liberation, education, learning, or do I choose money? Do I choose the nice house, the nice car, the nice clothes, the superficial friends? I felt like that was necessary to put in, like the friendships or the connections that are based purely on material understandings of the world and have no real substance. It's all appearance. Hopefully I'm not reading anybody too bad. And then we have the Ten of Swords. This is the last decan of Gemini, and I don't know about you guys, but when we approach the northern summer solstice, there's a complete vibe shift as soon as the sun steps past that Cancer threshold, that 0-degree Cancer point on June 20th, 21st, whenever it happens to land on the Gregorian calendar in a particular year. Like, the energy immediately feels different. It doesn't feel uplifted. It doesn't feel like it's engaging, or this is just my interpretation of the energy anyway. This has been my experience. Like, it doesn't feel as exciting, as new, as fresh. You've reached the climax, and now the only place to go from there is downward. And so this to me is kind of an encapsulation of that feeling of like, I've made it to this peak. I'm there. Now I release. Now I give up. The work is done. This is surrendering to sleep, the abyss of nothing, of relinquishing control, of succumbing to your burdens. And I don't think necessarily that that's a negative thing. It's being conveyed to me in the sense of needing to acknowledge what you've done to get to this point and resting, letting it go, just for a little while at least. Tending to your wounds, making yourself that lovely cup of tea, and just sitting in bed staring at the ceiling. Like, everyone needs that. Everyone needs that space, that emptiness. Because we do a lot. We're busy beings. You know, humans do a lot. You probably do a lot. Like, there's just, acknowledge the need for the time and space to do and be nothing. And I think in those quiet moments is when the guidance will be at its most audible. You're showing up for your own reading with the Hanged Man here. And again, this is like the perfect encapsulation of the energy I was talking about at the start of the reading, of withdrawing from the outer world, removing yourself from the social circles, from the outings, from the workplace, from the family group chat. And taking the time to sit in that stillness, to again stare at the ceiling. That's all meditation is. Being present with the nothingness. Being present with your own awareness and nothing else. Letting the noise fade into the background. Or out of the picture entirely if you're real good, but that's what this card is to me. And next to it, because 2 cards came out when I did that, the 3 of Cups. You know, and I think it is kind of funny that I was like, you know, withdrawing from the social circles and the outings and everything, and then here's the card of exactly those things. It's just... the energy I'm getting, I want to phrase it with a question. Are you actually enjoying yourself when you're doing this? Is it just a ritual that you're participating in? Because I think the fact that this card came out with it, there's a dissociative aspect to things. Like, yeah, you're going through the motions, you're clinking your glasses and you're drinking and you're dancing and you're having a good time. This doesn't have to be literal. Just take the image and try to interpret it as you can. But there's that awareness of the one within that is not engaging with any of that, not participating with any of that. And isn't necessarily providing judgment of the situation, but I think just as like a solemn awareness that this isn't it. This isn't accomplishing anything. This isn't fulfilling you. So going back to what I had mentioned about like the ancestral veneration, it doesn't literally have to be that. I think this is kind of like a call to return to a spiritual practice of some kind if you've let it sort of fall to the wayside. Because I think that's been a big element of what's been lost in this complacency. And I'm saying quotes just to kind of generalize and sum up the specific situation or scenario or timeline that I was kind of talking about earlier. So it's the easy timeline. And I say easy, it's not I don't feel like anything's been easy. It certainly doesn't seem that way. Like, whatever choices you've made, it's like everything has come at a cost, both literal and figurative. I want to draw one more card for sake of symmetry. And I think this is going to be the card that sort of sums everything up and helps you determine where all of this is going. Because I think you know where it's been. It's like, what's next? What comes next? What comes after the rest and the repose and the finally sitting down, tending to your wounds, sitting with the emptiness, acknowledging the emptiness, and deciding to finally move on in a new direction. What is that new direction? Where do we go from here? What does it look like? How do we move this energy that's been stuck and contained? Okay. I feel like it's important for me to communicate the process that's happening right now because I feel like it's relevant to the situation. So, 4 cards fell out of the deck as I was shuffling. I've arranged all 4 of them in front of me, face down, so I have no idea what the cards are. And just kind of intuitively started running my hand over them to see if one of them stood out to me. And then I kind of felt like there is no wrong answer. It's kind of a scary and uncomfortable thought, isn't there? Isn't that? Because it's like different choices will have different results, and it's really up to you where this is going to go. And I'm not going to turn all 4 cards over. I literally am just going to pick one of them. And I think that's important for you too, to acknowledge that if you pick one of these things, you know, stick with it. Stand by your choice and follow it through to the end. Don't be wishy-washy. You know, follow this through with determination and allow the dissatisfaction of your former life to be the fuel that guides you forward and pushes you onward, that motivates your effort. All right, here's a scary moment. We're going to pick a card. I don't know which one. Oh, okay, it's between these 2 for me. It's always been this one. I don't know why. Okay. 6 of Cups. This is like the card of a return. It can be the return to a former lover, which I mean is something that is frequently interpreted from this card, but I think it can also be a return to something that's familiar. Maybe somewhere that you've already been. Maybe in terms of somewhere that you've lived before or somewhere that you've worked before. I'm also hearing like some sort of workplace, workshop, like hobby related, maybe like an artist guild or something. I don't know. There's something there, like just reconnecting with something from the past. And I feel like maybe there has been a guidance to do that. And if you needed confirmation, I guess this is the confirmation. Yeah, I don't feel like I need to say anything else. You have everything you need right now. Just do it. Okay. Make the choice. It was real scary picking that card, I will say. But wasn't that so nice to see after that whole process? Returning to former glory. Returning to an easy pace of life, easier pace of life, returning to something that fulfilled you or brought you happiness in the past. And maybe you gave it up because you felt like there's no way this can be enough. But why would you ask that question? Was that a question that arose in you organically, or was it something that was kind of imposed upon you by other people's perspective of the situation? Or your own projections of how other people might perceive your situation? Did you pursue a particular path because you thought you would be judged poorly if you didn't? Or, I don't know. What else? Anyway, let's sit with that card. Kind of makes me want to cry a little bit. And I think it's a good cry. If you need a good cry, go do the thing. Go do the good cry. I think that's what this card is also talking about. Like, let yourself go. Let yourself cry. Let yourself go. Oh my goodness, that's kind of a funny phrase. Hopefully not like completely, but like for a little while. You know, schedule it in your weekly calendar. Time set aside to let yourself go. Anyway, I'm gonna keep rambling. I love y'all. I hope you get through this. We get through this. It's gonna be okay. And remember that no decision is the wrong decision. It's just a different decision. But trust your inner guidance, trust your outer guidance, and stand by that decision. All right. Take care. Good night, or good morning, or good afternoon. This internet thing's weird.